Hello, everybody. Welcome to another Forge Forward podcast. What number is this, Courtney? Number 15, 16? I know
I think we're up there. We're saving
going
the
up
best
there,
till
mate.
last, Bill. Saving the best till last, mate.
That's exactly right, mate. Today is an excellent treat. We've got Tim O'Neill, the co-founder of Time Under Tension. Mate, say hi to your crowd, to your fans out there all across the globe.
Hi, everybody. Pleased to be here. Thank you, Courtney and Phil.
Absolute
Excellent,
pleasure
excellent.
having you, Tim. Absolute pleasure. All right,
let's kick things off, mate.
Yeah, let's do it. Tim, you're someone that I seem to overlap with. We only met the other week. It was a nice walk and a chat, and I think we had lots in common in conversation, which I really enjoyed. We're both in that sort of mindset where we're open, we're really leaning to the future. I know you've had a history in marketing and more recently stepped into a new venture, Time Under Tension. Could you give me a little bit of a background journey of yourself, what's led you to Time Under Tension, and where you see you can add value in Forge Conference, please?
Yeah, sure. I mean, starting with where we are now, so we've been running Time Under Tension for the last 18 months, and Time Under Tension is an agency focused 100% on generative AI. So we do three things. We help the clients that we work with to understand what generative AI is and what's exciting about it. We work with them to facilitate design workshops. The idea being to get what are the use cases within their businesses in their words and out and document those. And the third thing is we help them actually bring those visions of theirs to life. So we build digital products using generative AI baked in. And so kind of rewinding how we got to this point, me and my two co-founders, Jason and Tim, we all come from a digital agency background. So we used to build websites. In fact, Tim and I started a web design company back in the very early days of the internet, back in 1997.
Yep.
Wow.
Netscape 2,
Wow.
Netscape 3.
6K modem.
Yeah, it was dial-up speeds. It was the whole works. And it was... we kind of accidentally found ourselves in that business through a luck and circumstance. And what struck us was it was just so exciting. Like web was changing every month or every 6 months. There was like a new browser would be the big thing. There'd be a new browser which would have new capabilities. Like now you can do video, or now you can do animation, or now you can do graphics, or now you can do 3D in a browser. And we ran that business for 18 years, and every year probably we had to reinvent the business around the new technology. And we ended up selling that business to Accenture about 8 or 9 years ago. So that was ended up being a very successful, quite large business, and that was acquired and that was 18 years in. So both Tim and I and also Jason, we had time on our hands, and this is like we had a bit of a gap between Reactive, that business. And then generative AI started becoming a thing about 2 years ago, where we first saw image diffusion models where you could type in some words and an image popped out of the computer. We're like, oh my God, that's insane. And then we saw the precursor to ChatGPT, where you type words in and more words would come out, or different words would come out. We're going, oh my God, that's insane as well. And we just knew this was something that would become change all the things that we had done for 20 years of building websites and doing marketing and creating images and Photoshop the hard way, hiring illustrators, photography. So we're just really, really interested in this space, and we had time on our hands, and we thought there's another business here. Let's start helping people get their head around it and get them as excited as we are. And now that kind of I described that massive pace of change when we through our what at the time seemed like a fast pace of change, like every 6 months there's something new. Now it's literally every 2 weeks there's something new.
Almost daily, mate. Almost daily. To try and keep up with it, it's so fast.
There's a new AI model, or there's a new
so
tool
coming
that
out.
create video better or something like that. So we've just been doing, keeping abreast of that for the last couple of years and commercializing that, bringing that to the clients and building stuff that provides value to them. So it's very similar to what I've really done for my entire career, which is and with the same people. Like Tim and I have been best friends since uni. It's our third business together. We've been running businesses together for 25 years of working together, I would say, roughly. And
Wow.
with Jason, probably about 10 or 15 years of running businesses with him.
Well, you went back pre-2000 when I was actually looking at trying to find Kix COBOL DB2 programmers for the Y2K issues that were coming up. So that gives an idea of my age. Not that I want to give that away to the audience. But I'll segue that to a little conversation we had prior to coming in today, which is, I see this as gross change. We met with Chris Berg in a previous podcast, and he talked about this micro-credentialing and ability to self-learn and educate in an AI-oriented world. And we talked about you hiring a young fella, and we don't have to mention names, of course, but a young man who was, I think, year 10. Could you tell that little story? Because to me, that's just mind-bending on where we've moved to and the way people are starting to think.
Yeah, sure. So I was introduced earlier this year to, I won't say his name, but a very talented programmer, and he had actually finished year 10 the year before and was already in the workforce. He was doing an internship as an AI engineer, so a developer kind of role.
Yeah.
And I met him, and number one, he's 16. He doesn't come across as being 16.
No, not at all.
Way more mature than that. And when people are, like, learn what he does for a living and that he's out in the workforce, and also the way he presents himself and communicates that he's 16, people are like, no way, that's crazy. But he had been teaching himself AI programming for the last sort of 2 or 3 years at home. He had been doing sort of freelance work, and then he had already been doing this internship before I met him. And we looked at his portfolio and spoke to him and asked what his aspirations were. And the fact that he's self-taught and he's 16, kind of irrelevant, right? Like, he's a super talented guy, really nice, and a very good communicator. And we're like, well, why wouldn't we offer you a job? And I did 2 reference checks with him. One was with the guy that he was doing the internship with, that he had just recently finished. And the other was with his mum, because I wanted him to
that's right.
on board with him, that him leaving school was all above board.
It sounds like an NBA approach. You've got to interview the mum to get the boy over the line, so to speak.
No, the boy was all on board. Yeah. I just wanted
the boy was on board. I wanted
to make sure he wasn't. You had to run away from home, and I was
yeah.
You get in trouble with the law for this.
That's right.
But no, I mean it's brilliant, and it really raises, I think, a challenge for schools and universities. For his question wasn't even really a question. It was kind of a rhetorical question of do you think I'll learn more at school than in the workforce? And the answer is no. Of course you'll learn more if you really know what you want to do. Like, of course, in an area that's changing every week, then you will definitely learn more out in the workforce and education. Not to say that education doesn't play a really important role in building fundamentals, and especially if you don't know exactly what you want to do, then going to university, and that's a fantastic way to work out like what you want to specialize in, what you're really passionate about. But it's pretty hard for the universities to keep up with the curriculums when the pace of change. But we're doing a bit of engagement with some universities and kind of trying to help them with that. They recognize it, and that they're all trying to kind of get their heads around how they do the best thing for students.
It's nice to see some of them are leaning in and allowing for AI to be used in the course literature, which is great. And if you've got anything to do that, that's fantastic. It shows a lot around mindset, though, doesn't it? Like how you view this new world and how you want to step into this new world. Do you want to be brave, or do you want to watch it go by? And so that young fella, I think when I met him, he had some grasp that he was going to work out how to rapidly undertake MRI scans using AI to determine things that the human eye and humans wouldn't be able to do. I was just like, wow, if you're targeting big problem-solving stuff, which is just amazing mindset.
I feel bad about the thing he was helping me with this morning, which was doing translation of email marketing.
Look, all learning, mate, and understanding how to work in the workforce with people is also another important skill set, right? People are critical. Terrific leading. Amazing conversation to start.
Yeah, that's insane. That kid's raised the bar for all 16-year-olds out there, and I'm pretty sure that all of them are kind of upset now.
Maybe a few
That is
30-year-olds.
tremendous
as well,
effort what he's
Phil.
done so far. Yeah. Oh yeah, probably for the 30-year-olds as well. He's put my position under
Yeah, under threat.
redundant properly now. It's under threat. Yeah.
Yeah, people are worried about the robots taking their jobs. They should be worried about the 16-year-olds that are really good with
I love
robots.
that. I love it.
But this kid, yeah. Or they download this 16-year-old's kid and put it in a hard drive, and then there's an army of them, and that's where we're gonna grow, mate. So, can I ask, when you're speaking at Forge, what are the what do you want the attendees to walk away with your insights?
Yeah, I mean, if there's one thing that they take away, then an ideal thing would be like an understanding that generative AI is more than ChatGPT and more than probably what most people's sort of first impressions is, and that it can have a meaningful impact within their businesses, and some practical steps for how they can find that use case, and starting small and kind of expanding from there. So ideally just some concrete steps where they can go back the next day and get started, get something happening within the business, something important, something meaningful.
Yeah, and look, I think the superpowers of people like yourself in the current market, Tim, are that you can show some of these things fairly quickly, like snippets. You don't just. Yep. I mean, I follow you on LinkedIn. I'm like you, a guy that leans in and watches the neuron, and there's an AI for that. And I'm connected into all those channels, and I see some of the things that you post, and sometimes they're shares, and sometimes they're direct pieces of work you put together. All of those things can be done in a demonstration relatively quickly. And I'm hoping that you're prepared to share that with our audience in an environment, because I have you in a section by yourself at when I say my plan, we deliver, in a section where we can show an audience that some of these things are achievable, where otherwise they might have thought they were impossible.
Yep.
Does that make sense? Is that how you like to operate, and is that something we can get at Forge?
Yeah, for sure. You're totally right. I mean, logistics aside of live demos and things like that, it kind of speaks 1,000 words. Like people, especially a lot of people who are new to generative AI, they might have used ChatGPT, but like it's very sort of a narrow view of what's possible. And if you just describe something else like video generation, they go, I don't understand like what you mean. And it's like, no, like, literally you can type some words in and then a video comes out. Like, I don't believe you. And then you show them and they're like, oh my God, that's insane. And
crazy.
Bringing, I mean, that's not probably the most relevant example for the audience at Forge. So finding some of those things where it's like a common use case that would be relevant to a lot of people in the room and then demonstrating that. Yeah, that's what we should do.
Yeah, I'd like a couple, and I think video is a good one to show, because it sometimes sex sizzles. That sexiness of presentations gives the sizzle that people need to take them over the jump, the hurdle, so to speak, that's in their mind. The example that you sent recently was a video in LinkedIn post. Those visuals were incredible, often original painting or image. Using a new Chinese video gen tool, just incredibly artistic and amazing to look at. So
video
I can't wait.
Improving amazingly. Like 6 months ago, it was everything you output in video was pretty bad, and now it's like normally I'm surprised about how good it is. Like going, wow, that's actually really looks quite realistic, even if it's something fictional. Like that example was a fictional illustrated image of a robot made of Lego, and then Minimax, the video tool, animated that, and I mean, it looked
that was unbelievable. That was unbelievable. That was awesome. Yeah,
that's insane. Yeah.
The other one, and talking practically, and why don't we just lean into that a little bit, because we've given an example of something creative. I think a lot of people didn't believe creatives would be disrupted to the way that they've been disrupted, and that's a topic maybe for Forge. But one of the other use cases that we talked about on our walk was the concept of taking requirements gathering and or information gathering and then producing documents or information of value. Maybe it's a quote, maybe it's a proposal, maybe it's a tender. Could you talk a little bit about that without going into detail? Because that would be a great example of something I think most of our audience would be blown away by.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, we've built two of these tools for clients. One's a heritage advisory firm, and the other is an acoustic engineering firm. And the use cases are a little bit different, but the technology behind how we're doing it behind the scenes is kind of similar, and that's using a large language model, so like ChatGPT, but taking the brain out of ChatGPT and then building our own application on top of that brain. And in the case of one of them, it's writing proposals, so it's taking lots of requirements, like really complicated, massive RFPs, digesting that into like a one-page internal brief would be a good way to put it. And then so the language model takes 500 pages, turns it into a one-page summary, and then they can automate the creation of a proposal from that. So they can get what's taking them 3 or 4 hours to do reading all the RFPs and pulling out the bits. It takes them 10 seconds. And they do 1,000 RFPs a year, so it's quite meaningful for them.
Let alone the work to then respond. Like you look at those two work chunks, which is you have to have a specialist identify against the core subject matter, and then you have to then interpret that into the way in which you would deliver against. Like they're two monstrous pieces of work right there, like in a typical business.
That's exactly right. And the other one, which is, again, it's kind of behind the scenes pretty similar, is report writing. So the heritage advisory firm do write reports. They've been around for a long time, and they've written hundreds of these reports. So they've got a massive library of content. And when they create a new report, it's like, okay, that bit from there, that bit from there, that bit from there, and then woven together into the new story that's applicable for whatever the brief they're working on. And that's something that large language models are just amazing at. They're really good at doing, a good first draft of that, like doing a 75%, 85% good first draft that the human then goes and, takes and runs with from there. I mean, any task that involves lots of words and doing something with those words is generally a good use case for using generative AI and a large language model.
Education disruption, lots of words. Even mathematics now, from some of the models I've seen, mate, are incredible. I remember playing around with the first instance, doing some business planning stuff, and it was doing miscalculations of unit costs and all that sort of thing. I had no idea. Now you can spit some of those business plan items out, give it a high-level English interpretation of what you're trying to achieve, and it'll do all the modelling and give you a bloody good first cut, like an incredible first cut. Yeah, it's incredible. It's incredible.
That's something else that's changed a lot in the last kind of few months. Really.
Yeah, agreed.
It's insane what's going on out there. I was still blown away when I was first testing Midjourney and the stuff that you can make out of Midjourney. I would like to share a little story where I was able to get photos of my current puppy and then photos of a previous puppy in another life and put them into the engine and actually create an image of those two puppies playing together in a park, which was just mind-blowing that I could actually do that, and it was very realistic. And I was like, holy crap, this is insane. This is going to be crazy. But to have that in a video format, even going in further. So
that's a great startup idea. Was just an app, like a mobile app that combines your dogs into photos.
It's huge because it's priceless memories together. I don't know. I just found that excellent.
There's your name as well.
Together, Tim.
Priceless memories. $3.95 within that.
No, I like it.
I'll tell you what we'll do straight off the back of this. I'll drop the transcript in, and we'll rate it of whether it's a good business idea, and if it is, we'll pull it together. How's that sound?
Yeah, we'll show a live demo.
Very good.
I love it. What are some of the? Actually, let's start with this question. How do you see the future? What's the biggest signal that's actually made you go, holy crap, this is going out of control? Is it the video stuff? Is it the image stuff? Is it the LLMs? What's the biggest signal that you see?
Yeah, two things. I mean, the improvement of the large language models, which means they're more applicable to more tasks, that's one. But the part of the improvement, and this is sort of really happening in real time now, is the large language models, which started being just text, are now becoming what's called multimodal, and the modes being text and audio, so words and audio and video. And the models can see the world around them through a camera. They can listen, they can talk, and they can use the language model bit, like the words, to answer questions or interpret. Like you point a camera at a tree and it can tell you what kind of tree it is, etc. And these new models, so Gemini have one which it's not out yet. OpenAI have one, again, it's not out publicly yet. But these are going to be in our hands within probably the next 3 months, and it just blows wide open a whole lot of new use cases for, in the first instance, these will be mobile apps, maybe B2B or either B2B or B2C, where you can build like a helpful digital assistant that is tailored to a particular use case or your brand, that can see the world around you, talk to you and communicate with you. And it's like the world is your oyster. It's a bit hard to, it's one of those, like, I think, changes that's actually really quite hard to picture what people will do or imagine what people will do, but it'll be incredible.
Yeah, so that concept of digital twin,
I've been using Google. I was going to say, Colin, when I went to Japan earlier, I was using Google Lens non-stop to translate absolutely everything in Japan, which I couldn't believe. That was mind-blowing. Like, what this bus schedule, what time is when my bus is coming? Google Lens listed everything. Oh, I want to see the Japanese menu. I don't need to see the overpriced English menu. Show me the Japanese menu. Google Lens, I know exactly what I'm going to order. And to take that a step further would be mind-blowing, particularly if you want to, I think it's out now, if you could take a photo of a tree, then you can know what type of tree that is, how long it grows, and all that kind of stuff that I've seen out there right now. But huge.
Yeah, what you can do now is with a still photo. The difference when it's coming, what's coming soon, is you can do that with a live video.
Yeah, look, it opens up a set of questions, and I don't like to go into the needy side, but there are a number of resistors, Tim, in this space. You know, I've spoken in rooms where I can see the visceral pushback to the machines are coming conversation, and I wonder how do we manage the bad acting in this space, because there's an opportunity with all of this for bad actors to do bad things. What are you telling your customers in order to protect themselves? Because these are businesses with established, I'm assuming, established reputations and brand, and they don't want things to get out there that could negatively tarnish those brands. What are your thoughts about that side of the world we're stepping into?
Yeah, so there are a few kind of well-known risks of ways that internally a company like a brand could have a team member do the wrong things, you know, with these tools, and inadvertently normally do the wrong thing, and like around data security, these models all have some inherent biases in them. So we teach responsible AI use to the clients that we work with. I mean that's more from an internal point of view, so it's not really addressing the existential potential risks, but most companies just want to start by, let's not leak our confidential information to the model. Let's not, do anything that's going to get us in hot water.
I've seen some interesting where I think AI is incredible. Cybersecurity being one of those massive challenges we have, the ability for that concept of that front-end AI engine that can be the safeguard for business as well. It's one thing to say that you could be attacked by AI, which you could. The reverse is you could be saved by AI. So it's really, it's an interesting time to be around. We'll find our feet on that, no doubt. And these are some of the challenges that industries are facing. If we went through customer journey, which we kind of talked to at the top end of the conversation today, what are some of the challenges that you're seeing in industry that really stand out that AI and tools around generative AI are solving?
Yeah, when we talk to clients and do presentations, there's two buckets of use cases that we describe. There's customer experience, so customer facing, like a digital assistant or a chatbot on your website, or there's lots of different things you could do. Or there's employee experience and internal tools and building things that will improve internal productivity. And that's where most companies are starting, is internal. When you build a chatbot or a digital assistant, it's quite difficult to make that, at the moment, to make that impenetrable and make it that no one can come and jailbreak it or get it to inadvertently say the wrong thing. And there's lots and lots of examples of high-profile sort of brands who have done a chatbot, and someone has gone in and just hacked it, not even really properly hacked it, just prompt engineered it to say the wrong thing. Like there's a car, I think it was a Chevrolet.
Yeah, I've heard of the car one.
Dealership in the US, and someone got the chatbot to say that they would offer the car for $0, and
That's right.
yes, and the chatbot then said yes, this is legally binding. So they went in and tried to get their car for $1, and funnily enough, that didn't actually work out for them. But it's actually really hard to totally rule that out unless you spend heaps of time and effort. Out of the box, the language models are open to that kind of, are susceptible to those kind of prompt hacking. So almost all the clients are starting with internal use cases, and it's finding a use case where there's a manual process that people are doing, ideally lots of people are doing on a regular basis, because if it's a impactful change, then it's got some scale, and not all of those will be useful or helped by generative AI, but almost always there will be some where it's using words or language or that kind of thing is a good use case for, okay, a human doesn't need to do that brute force approach to writing reading the proposal RFPs and writing that internal brief. Like, that's perfect, we do that with AI, then the human adds the value for for the rest of the process. So those are the kind of things to create a big productivity gain within the business and demonstrate, get some wins on the board, like get one project going, start with a proof of concept, demonstrate that, build that out to an MVP, do a pilot program, prove that it works, show that up the chain, get support for another project, and then start going there. And then in a year's time, maybe less, start looking at the customer facing apps or services and things that you can do.
I love it.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, well, personal vision, let's talk about that, Tim. What is your vision for the future, and how do you hope to influence change across all the different industries that they're going to be at the Forge event, I guess?
I mean, that's a tough question. My vision for the future.
I'm very curious because you see it already pretty high.
I guess the phrasing of the question is probably what throws me off, is in terms of where the future is going, whether I'm part of it or not, is that we're going to get, I'll be part of the future, but not maybe influencing it.
We hope so.
You know what I mean? I'll still be here, but I might be just watching. I
was going to say, get that out there.
Continued development of these AI models at pace, the large language models, and I feel like at some point, I don't know how long out, maybe in the next couple of years, there'll be an alternative to the large language model architecture. Some people believe that large language models have a horizon where they can only get so good, and that architecture is kind of limiting. I think someone will have another method. I've got no idea what that would be or what that would look like, but the path that we're on is, and almost everybody that's way smarter than I am believes this to be a thing, is to AGI, artificial general intelligence, which basically means it's like ChatGPT, but it's better at everything that humans are, and within the one sort of tool. So you can then get massive advancements and breakthroughs in science and medicine and biology, and health, and economics and societal and environmental, and these AI services are going to, if used for good, provide some incredible breakthroughs. And the horizon for when that will come is, like, different people have very different opinions of that, but the average consensus view is that we will reach that point where the computer's one single AI service is as good as a Nobel Prize winner across every different category, is 2033. So what's that, 9 years? So when you say like within our lifetime, it's not even, it's obviously within our lifetime. It's, you'll probably still be living in the house that you're living in now, driving the same car when we have this. And I don't know what that will look like when we get it. I don't know if it's certainly not going to be all good. There's going to be definitely bad as well, but with hope, the good outweighs the bad. And that's, I think that's inevitable, that will arrive. Like, we're on that path, and it's just sort of how long will that take? And what do we do to make sure it's as good an outcome as we can?
And how much fun can we have in work and our personal lives on the way through, as we still get to be as human as we choose to be, and live in a world that's changing on a daily basis. I still get a buzz when I pull up a tool that's recommended on the Neuron, and I look at it and go, very, very small use case. Wow, they've dialed into that, and what an output that's been. There's probably 15 hours of work just in my proof of concept piece I'm playing with. You know what I mean? Just in that alone. Things like I've seen workflow diagrams starting to emerge, website builds. These are all things that are just incredible now, that, like, I think back to the work to build out the content structures of that stuff. Insane. On that note, and given I've given one tip there, the Neuron is one I use. What are the tools you rely on to stay ahead of the trends and ensure you've got continued success at Time Under Tension?
Yeah, they're probably more subscriptions than tools necessarily.
Yep.
So there's a couple of YouTube channels that I like, and a couple of email newsletters that I like.
Okay.
Beyond that, it's within my personal network, and within Time Under Tension, we have a collective. The collective is 10 people who are senior experienced people that are part of our friends and family, extended group of Time Under Tension, and we have a group chat with the staff of Time Under Tension and the collective, and that's a great filter for anything that ends up in that someone recommends. Is like, that's definitely going to be relevant and good. The YouTube channels that I like, I like AI Explained, and I like Matt Wolf. Email newsletters, I really, really like anything from Ethan Mollick, who writes a Substack. His stuff, every single publication, or every time he writes, I'm like, this is perfect. This is like so clever. And there's another one called, it's a bit hard to, it's not hard to pronounce, but it's hard to spell. It's called Brand X, which is BRXND.ai, and it's a conference, but also the guy behind it writes or email newsletter, which is also really good, sort of intersection between marketing, digital technology, and generative AI, which is the spot that I'm working in.
That is an awesome takeaway. Information is power in this age that we live. The opportunity for all of us to empower our teams, collaborate. I love the concept that you bring an experience group together. I'd like to think that Forge could be that first experiment for some of the customers we have at Connection and our partner customers to come along, learn some stuff, experiment in a group in a short, punchy session as you're starting to think about things otherwise that weren't in your radar or on your radar, and walk away with value and something you can implement in your business, working with amazing people like yourself, Tim. On that note, we've crossed the 30-minute threshold. It was so easy to get to 30, it wasn't funny. So the conversation's been fluent and super engaging from my front. Thanks for your time today, Tim.
Yeah, thanks very much, guys, and look forward to seeing everybody at Forge.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Tim. Thank you, mate. Thank you.